Oh dear. But a bit. Anyway, I'm legitimately trying to get time in this. Okay, so it's right here. We learning. We learning. So thanks to the Chinese video, that's not very helpful at the moment. Hmm. Kalwa. Beautiful. This does nothing. No, no, wait. All right. Ah. Um. Huh. So, fun fact: whenever I start talking to people, at this early in the morning, my nose gets fucking runny for no goddamn reason, and it's not a joy for me to experience. Like in the middle of my class yesterday morning, or yesterday. Ooh. Ah. All right. That's it. All right. So, forgive me for being just a tad bit fucking dumb. There we go. That barely does anything at all. Mm. Who needs normal waking hours, right? I am perfectly fine. 2 a.m. This is it. This is 24-hour time. I just fucking realized. Oh well. Um.
especially like the anime industry to who wants to be a I feel like people who go into especially like the anime industry to who wants to be a voice actor, they do it for the passion. You know?
You get paid nothing for those sessions. I mean, maybe unless you're a SAG actor in LA, you get paid a decent amount. I think it's $250 minimum
Right.
for a session, 2 hour session. But yeah, it's you get the notoriety, which allows you to do a lot.
Yeah,
in
right.
anime,
Yeah,
which is
I don't
what
know
pays
because
the bills.
I feel like nowadays there's less notoriety in like big voice acting names.
Yeah.
In dubbing at least than there used to be.
True. It used to be cons, right? That's what you wanted.
Yeah, exactly. But now, like, even if you get to voice a dub in like a huge show, there's like you still don't get as much notoriety as like say, back in like the mid 2000s, we had voice actors like Steve Bloom, Johnny Young Bosch, Crispin Freeman, who just like those like the AAA voice acting
Everybody
names.
knew who they were.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a lot harder in this climate and industry just because there's so many dubs now. You know, and everything gets like if it's on Funimation, it's probably going to be simul-dubbed, and everyone watches anime in like very different ways now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like even going back to Japan Sinks, where I didn't know who any of the voice actors who voiced in this anime were because I was literally switching between dub and sub depending on which one I like to listen to. Because I feel like the voice acting for dubs in general has gotten to like a passable quality in almost every show. Like there are some shows that are like, this is just a funny dub, you know. But for the most part, if I want to just shut my brain off and just listen to the language that I want, that I speak, then I'll just put on the dub, and I have the trust that it will be a decent experience.
Yeah, dubs have definitely gotten to that point now.
Yeah, there's certainly no like 90s quality like hilarious dub.
No.
Quality
Which is why I feel like the whole argument of sub versus dub is kind of like mute at this point.
I feel like the counterpoint to that is that there are less dubs that just stand out now.
Yeah,
because I think of some of my favorite dubs, right? Something like Baccano,
best
or something, you know, Cowboy Bebop. You know, these are dubs that stand out. Like literally, like I remember how good they were just because of how their quality. But nowadays, I don't know. I can't think of like many dubs that literally just everything's good, everything's of decent quality, but I can't think of anything that like truly stands out as this is a dub experience.
To me, the newest quote unquote anime where the dub was like wow was probably Panty and Stocking.
Yeah, but that was like 2008.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Newest in air quotations, right?
It's how the industry was back then, right? You had like 2 weeks to just cast people. Like you had 2 weeks just for that, let alone everything else. But now you've 2 weeks to, not even 2 weeks, like 1 week to cast, translate, and get these actors in the booth and get recording. Like it's you can't expect anything good to come out of that. We get the good products, right? It's decent, but we're not going to get anything that blows us away for.
I think the last dub that blew me away was probably Steins Gate because it was one of those shows where I could appreciate the work that went into translating and just scripting it. Not just like the voice acting, but like everything was just really polished.
I believe that was scripted by
J. Marcus Asen.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which is why he absolutely killed it.
Amazing.
Kyomo as well. So
Need to actually set. Yes, Thermont. Where is that bitch? There it is. Right. Actually working out. So
So like, because I think with the era of simuldubbing, it's a lot harder to recreate that same quality and that same hype because they just don't have as much time anymore.
I also think, at least for Funimation, I think when Sony took over, I think they restructured a lot of it to make it less focused on giving writers time and more getting the whole thing out sooner.
Yeah.
Which, is understandable, I guess, but also at the same time, you kind of lose a bit of that magic that, maybe a dub would be, whoa, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are few things more exciting to gamers than the launch of a hotly anticipated new title. But even with on-sale dates announced far in advance, you'll hear tales of development studios having to delay their launches or forcing their employees into something called crunch time in order to hit a street date. But what does crunch time consist of, and why does it even happen? Development crunch is when programmers and other employees have to put in extra hours at work in order to meet a deadline. If you're working in another field like law or sales where time-sensitive projects are often the norm, then you know this isn't a new concept. But development crunch has made headlines lately in mainstream media as video games have exploded in popularity in general. But even in the gaming world, the modern history of development crunch goes back at least to 2004, when the spouse of an EA employee famously wrote a letter detailing how crunch time workers were on the job for 13 hours a day, 7 days a week, without even being offered any additional compensation or time off. Even now, 100-hour work weeks are not uncommon in the development world during crunch time, with one infamous example being how Telltale Games laid off a couple hundred employees right after some of them were on the job until 3 in the morning to finish working on The Walking Dead. But why have crunches that demand so much from workers become so common? Well, the difficulty studios face from getting a game out on time comes in part from how many moving pieces there are, from the technical side of things to art and design to testing. Together, these mean that delays in any one part of the studio can have a ripple effect down the line. For example, a small bug in the game's code may not become evident until it causes problems for other departments that rely on that code. And oftentimes, identifying and fixing a bug is a time-consuming process. And because game design is so collaborative, it becomes tricky for the folks who work on games to push back against crunch time business practices. Unlike a traditional blue-collar field like manufacturing, where there are typically bright lines between workers and management, the fact that game studio employees are expected to be creative problem solvers blurs those lines, especially as game companies, much like other tech firms, tend to have go-getter cultures in which workers often feel like they have to keep up with the most dedicated employees, lest they be seen as low-performing. Many folks who work in game development tend to be relatively young and have flexible schedules, so although crunch time is unpleasant, these employees might feel that their employers won't have much sympathy for them, wanting to use their free time for non-work purposes if a deadline is looming. And obviously, there's nothing wrong with working hard or expecting employees to do so, but many are concerned that the development industry has taken this concept to an extreme, especially as mistakes tend to pile up when workers don't have enough time to rest or pursue other activities, since coding requires a high degree of concentration that's harder to pull off when you're stressed or sleep deprived. But development crunch can result in an on-time release instead of months after the promised date. So despite calls for change that include everything from a labor union for game developers to closing legal loopholes that allow companies to refuse paid overtime, crunch remains a common practice in the industry because the business model of many studios has shifted away from cranking out lots of separate titles and toward concentrating on a few popular franchises and profiting off continuous DLC releases. Consumer demand for frequent game updates is quite high, meaning studios are always fighting deadlines. This pressure on devs to keep up with their competitors also means 11th hour requests for changes are common from management, which often require more crunch time. The good news, however, is that with more attention brought to the issue, a number of large studios have begun to explore ways to reduce the burden of crunch time. In the meantime, though, if you happen to know someone who works in game development, a little emotional support can go a long way. This video is brought to you by MSI. Check out MSI's Meg Aegis
So,
9.5 gaming PC.
what I find an issue with,
10900K processor,
well,
DDR4
obviously,
and
the
up
fact
to an
that they're
MSI
working such long hours for long periods of time is nothing new, but I feel like whenever an industry gets larger, that's an inevitability.
So check it out today at the link below. Thanks for watching, guys.
Like, I don't think I've seen a single industry where the larger it's gotten, the more competitive it has become with, like, you know how big the gaming industry is at this point? Like, unless people stop playing video games, which obviously is impossible, there's always going to be crunch. It's not like there's going to be there's not going to be a time where video game production from massive studios is not a thing. The only time where game development not having crunch time is if it's an indie studio without hundreds of mega corporation suits backing them, forcing them to be able to, or forcing them to have a product ready on the date that they said it were gonna have a product on time, essentially. That's going to be a fact of life, and not much to do about that. Except become an indie studio. Like they say, if you want something done right, do it yourself.
There's no question, HDMI has been a great convenience for the consumer. Aside from being a high-bandwidth connection that enables high-resolution video and lossless audio, it's a lot simpler to use than the old days where you needed 3 cords for an HD picture and then up to 6 more for surround sound. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't have its issues, some of which are a result of its digital design. Unlike old-school analog AV connections, digital protocols like HDMI require a lot more processing, introducing complexity and more potential points of failure. One such issue that's been making headlines.
The reason why I chose this one is because I just bought an HDMI cord, and now my TV can plug into my
You can learn more about HDMI 2.1 up here. But
computer properly.
It's an incredibly fast revision that allows 8K 60 or 4K 120 hertz pictures. Dynamic HDR.
Definite upgrade from VGA, which was my last computer.
Sounds pretty good, right? Well, it turns out that a widespread HDMI 2.1 chipset is causing lots of headaches for early adopters. You see, although tons of companies make HDMI components, many of them source the actual chipsets that run them from the same places. In this case, AV receivers from Denon, Yamaha, and Marantz have all been using a faulty HDMI 2.1 chip.
Alright, Senor Sebastian, give me the symptoms. Alright, good. Nowhere near what I have. What, my TV is like a 720p?
And no sound will come out of the speakers connected to the receiver. So congratulations! Your festival of high-resolution video and immersive sound just amounted to a whole lot of nothing. This has been
Great, I'm not rich. Alright.
Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, or NVIDIA RTX 3000 series graphics card, as all of these devices boasted 4K 120Hz support as big selling points. The only workarounds right now, then, are either to connect your gadget directly to your display and use HDMI audio return channel to send the audio signal back to your receiver, or just settle for 4K 60 mode until a patch is issued. That is, assuming that the problem can even be fixed through software. Although the companies involved are working on a solution, it appears that they don't even know exactly what the problem is as of the time we shot this video. But hold on a second, HDMI is a standard, meaning all the manufacturers have to do is build a product according to the spec, right? How is this broken? Well, One potential trouble spot is the way that HDMI handles sending and receiving non-video information. This includes identifiers that are exchanged between two connected devices so that one device knows what's connected to it and what it can do. It also includes plug-and-play features and HDCP, which is HDMI's content protection system designed to counter copyright infringement. All of these features are handled by part of the connection that is vulnerable to electrical interference from other parts of the system, making it a common source of problems. And of course, if you've ever seen a blank or snowy display over HDMI, there's a good chance that's because of the HDCP handshaking procedure that's used to ensure that connected devices are compliant with copy protection. It ain't perfect and often necessitates a power cycle. Additionally, packing so many features into one cable not only means that it can be a little hard to switch between inputs, which is part of what a receiver has to do, but it also means that it is basically impossible to test every configuration of different HDMI-compatible hardware that's out there. It's similar to how sometimes PC components just don't play nicely with each other, even though they're all supposed to be compliant with certain standards. The nuances and idiosyncrasies of each individual component can affect a standard protocol in unforeseen ways, which is possibly part of what's going on with the current HDMI 2.1 fiasco.
I feel like this is essentially encouraging me to not buy anything 4K related. Because I feel quite content living a 720p lifestyle. Will I ever get shit for living a 720p lifestyle? You fucking scrub out there. Can't believe you don't watch 4K. Pfft, not even 1080p. What a loser.
Now, we're not saying that any specific issue... There's no
Shit,
question. This includes identifiers of each individual component can affect a standard protocol in unforeseen ways, which is possibly part of what's going on with the current HDMI 2.1 fiasco. Now, we're not saying that any specific issue we just discussed is the actual culprit. We're going to have to wait possibly into next year to find out. In the meantime, hopefully we can all settle for 4K 60 or 1080p 120. Or go outside and, like, play with a stick.
Yeah.
Basically, that's just as entertaining, right?
Yeah. If not even more.
No? Well, if you go outside,
I want to stick
Jackery
something.
provides portable and rugged power solutions, making them a perfect... Actually weighs less than most common generators. You're talking about? Yeah, me neither. I wasn't listening. HDMI, that's right. Or all your
You weren't
HDMI
listening to
connectors will
yourself?
fall off.
You tune out
Aha!
you tune out yourself when you talk?
Hey,
Like me?
It's been a hard year. You deserve some tech news.
Aw,
Here you go.
thanks.
Yesterday, Apple announced the AirPods Max, and no, they don't look like that giant AirPod Pro speaker Marquez had, although it did look like a lot of fun. The AirPods Max are over-the-ear headphones with active noise cancellation and spatial audio, and they'll be available December 15th for $549. Yikes.
What?
It is. It's Apple. What do you expect?
$600?
Honestly, I think it looks more like the Apple Watch than the AirPods. It's even got a digital crown dial in place of touch controls. The headband seems cool though. It's like a springy mesh type situation. In case you were wondering, yes, I'm trying to describe it in the exact opposite way they do in their product videos. The idea of a headphone has been completely reimagined. Springy mesh. And the earphones just magnetically clip on. Did you know that, James? They've got an R and an L sewn into them. I bet you want one just because of that line.
That's cute.
Oh, we don't sell headphones yet.
Aw. Yet.
Reviews for AMD's Radeon RX 6900 XT are out. You're supposed to say nice, James.
Well, you already have it there on
And
the screen.
The consensus seems to be that, well, it performs about as well as you'd think it would, given that at $999 it's priced right between NVIDIA's $699 RTX 3080 and the $1499 RTX 30.
That was offensive. I'm sorry. I was trying to mutter it, but he said, that's when you're supposed to say nice. So I got all defensive. I don't know. I shouldn't be so disrespectful. My bad.
90. The RX 6900 XT beats the 3080 in most games and can even match the 3090 in a few specific situations, but for the most part, it's an option for people who want even more power than the 3080, but don't want to quite pony up all the way. I only want to pony up pony's worth.
One of those, like, really short ponies.
Yeah, what are they called? Toy pony? A duck-sized pony. And regardless, they're probably not in stock anywhere. But watch out, AMD, because a potential reference to an RTX 3080 Ti was just found in an HP driver. Okay, fine, it was actually a device ID code that someone says refers to a 3080 Ti, so to call this one a rumor might even be a bit charitable. Now, if scalpers can be a bit charitable and let us have some frickin' GPUs, that'd be nice, you feel me? Come on! Yeah, from them at a higher price.
Forget about that.
And time for some game news that also serves as an interesting exploration of the idea of game delays.
Ooh.
Cyberpunk 2077 is finally releasing today after being delayed multiple times, much to the chagrin of its hardcore fans. And while the game's art direction and game systems are being praised, its numerous bugs are not, and some early players have experienced seizures thanks to flashing light sequences with no epilepsy warning.
Oh my.
In the user agreement, but no one reads those. CD Projekt Red has said they'll be adding a separate warning to the game, so hopefully that comes out soon. Meanwhile, Halo Infinite has been delayed again to fall 2021, a full year after the release of the Xbox Series X, which was supposed to have the game as a launch title before a fan backlash over some lackluster graphics in the trailer. 343 Industries released screenshots that make it clear the graphics will look a lot better next year, even if it means we don't see Craig the Brute again. So do game delays work?
Depends how good the graphics are with Halo.
Now it's time for Quick Bits, brought
I think game delays are only necessary if they actually are focused on finishing the game. Don't delay the game multiple times. It's kind of like me whenever I upload videos. I don't announce anything that I upload anymore. Because I know I tend to not be able to complete it in a certain time frame, so why bother announcing if I know I'm not going to complete it? Unless I have a set schedule, and the only way I'd have a set schedule would be if I'm backed by a company or if I'm working on YouTube full-time, which are two things that are not currently the case. And will probably not be the case. However, I think they could have delayed. I think they could have delayed the game even further, or rather, just delay it indefinitely and not announce, "Oh, we're gonna release it at this time," if the game is not properly finished and not non-buggy. So if the game is not oh my god, I just realized there's quite a bit of coffee stains on here. Jesus. I spilled coffee yesterday evening because it is morning now. And now that I am readjusted in my chair, I see all the fucking stains that I didn't get to properly clean. Jesus, fuck, I'll get to that after stream. There is the potential issue of what is it? People buying the game who were already backers of the game being influenced by their money so that they don't actually want. It's instead of turning into proper people who are criticizing the game, fairly, as unbiased as you can be, but because they've spent $60 no, not even $60, like way more than that, for being an early backer of the game, and I think you still have to pay for the game upfront for the retail price of $60 US. They're forced to not be, well, not exactly forced, but it's very easy to fall into the mindset of not being a fan of games, but rather being a fan of Cyberpunk because you sunk so much money into it, you invested so much into it that it has to be good. Otherwise, you've wasted a lot of money on a shit product. It's kind of like me when I dusted my Golden Blood Mage Thalnos to craft Nightmare Amalgam and the 3/8 epic the 3/8 neutral epic from Rastakhan. That's like, this minion takes damage instead of the left and right minions. This minion takes damage instead of its adjacent minions. I think that's the wording. No, it's not the exact wording, but that actually has the better way to not pronounce. That words it better. I do not remember the exact wording. That should tell you that that card is bad, and I dusted Golden Blood Mage Thalnos so I could craft double Nightmare Amalgam and that card. So, pretty bad decision on my part. Which is why I'm glad I didn't spend money on Cyberpunk 2077. Because now I don't have to worry about me making... Well, I've learned from my decision when it comes to dust management, and now I'm still trying to not make poor decisions and let it affect my taste, what I'm actually enjoying. Let's skip this ad.
Pleb! Don't be a pleb. Get the PC37X today at the link below. Oh, wake me up before you quick bits. Don't leave me hanging on, cause that's the pits. Facebook is hit with antitrust charges by the U.S. Federal Trade Commission and the Attorneys General from 48 U.S. states.
That's the opposite of trust.
Don't trust you. Over the tech giant's acquisition and monopolistic control of Instagram and WhatsApp. Facebook says they're reviewing the complaints, but they claim the government just wants a do-over without regard to the people that would be impacted.
For the people.
People, Mr. Chairman, and how much money their data can get us.
Exactly.
The internal report indicates that Huawei tested facial recognition software that could send an alert to Chinese law enforcement when it detected members of the Uyghur minority group who have been detained en masse by the Chinese government.
This actually might be the first facial recognition that works on minorities.
In a statement, Huawei said the technology is just a test, and they definitely didn't use this in the real world, especially not in the millions of facial recognition-capable surveillance cameras that blanket China. No way they did that! Microsoft has confirmed
Never would they ever.
Game streaming service on iOS and PCs in spring 2021, presumably using the now popular browser method to circumvent Apple's restrictions on iPhones. If you already have Xbox Game Pass Ultimate for PC, you'll get access for free. Look, I have problems with Microsoft sometimes, but you know what? Not today. Not today. Turns out Google's Fuchsia OS, its one-size-fits-all operating system for phones and desktop PCs, is still alive and kicking. Did you even know?
What is that?
I saw it pop up today. I was like, huh. In fact, they're taking public contributions for bug fixes, along with
I completely forgot what Fuchsia is. I do not remember.
And SpaceX conducted the first high-altitude flight test for its Starship rocket today, and when I say conducted, I mean exploded, because that's what it did when it returned to the ground. Apparently,
Nice.
people lost a couple thrusters during the test, but isn't that every man's excuse? In any case, even though the Starship didn't survive, SpaceX got some good data that they'll use to make the next test. Did the first high-altitude flight test for its Starship rocket today, and when I say conducted, I mean exploded.
Okay, so that camera is dead. Yeah, those are different places.
Because that's what it did when it returned to the ground. Apparently, the vehicle lost a couple thrusters during the test, but isn't that every man's excuse? In any case, even though this Starship didn't survive, SpaceX got some good data that they'll use to make the next test probably not as explodey. Who knows? Maybe starships weren't meant to fly.
Oh my god, what it?
Oh no! And this episode wasn't. Oh no! And this bloaty. Who knows? Maybe starships weren't meant to fly. Oh no! And this episode wasn't meant to continue, so it's over. Come back on Friday for more tech news, because you want to go into a weekend burdened with knowledge about humanity's relentless march towards our android future, don't you? 77, we're gonna get there, it's just gonna be normal.
The Boy Scouts will still be there too. I still have yet to fully watch this sports festival thing. She'll try. No, she actually will. You will fucking die, guaranteed. Christ. Yeah, you sound like a Power Ranger villain. These are really Power Ranger villain forms of thinking. Well done. Oh! Did your shit break? You just fucking realized. Ay. And nobody no calls you out, neither. That's deserved. If nobody no calls you up on the Alban armor, yeah, well, kind of deserved that loss. That was actually not too bad. Pecora? Who is Pecora? The mother will say. Miteru. Oh my. Mommy. Yes, your hands might be fast, but your brain... Yeah. Why would you do something like that? Hehe, I'm in danger. Usada mama peko. Waranato, waranato. Yeah, I knew. You're getting fat. Honestly, same. What? How dare you tell me to not ground pound your mom? Some bullshit. Can't believe you've done this. Didn't realize how quick I ended up burning through that. That was not too bad. But I think I'm gonna end stream there because it doesn't seem right to keep it going. Especially when I have shit to do now. I have to clean, I have to set up things for, well, not sleep. I can't sleep at this time. I have work at this time. So I'm gonna stay up until like 10 a.m. Gonna stay up until 10. And I have to. I'll spend like the next 6 hours doing various lyrics. Hopefully, I get Curved Edge and another thing I've already finished. Yes, Change My Life by Inman. I was working on that. I think I can, if I properly focus, if I get some coffee, some Tylenol, and clean off the coffee stains off this laptop, then I should be fine for the next 6 hours. Well, that's it for me, folks. Alright then.